Madonna was performing in front of 115 million people when she saw something in the crowd that made her freeze mid-song. Her hand went to her chest, her eyes filled with tears, and for 3 seconds that felt like an eternity. The entire Super Bowl halftime show stopped. What she saw wasn't a fan, wasn't a celebrity, and according to Madonna herself, shouldn't have been possible, because the woman she was staring at had been dead for 48 years. February 5th, 2012. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The Super Bowl halftime show is the most watched musical performance on the planet. More viewers than the Grammys, more than any concert, more than any awards show. For 12 minutes, one artist owns the attention of the entire world. And this year, that artist was Madonna. She had prepared for 6 months. The choreography was flawless. The set design was revolutionary. The costume changes were timed to the second. Everything was perfect. Except for one thing Madonna couldn't control. The date. February 5th was the anniversary of the day her mother died. Madonna Louise Ciccone was born in Bay City, Michigan in 1958. Her mother, also named Madonna, was a beautiful, devout Catholic woman who her daughter adored. But when little Madonna was only 5 years old, her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. The illness was aggressive. The treatments were brutal. And on December 1st, 1963, Madonna's mother died at the age of 30. That loss shaped everything. It's why Madonna became a perfectionist, always chasing her mother's approval even though she was gone. It's why she took her mother's name as her stage name, keeping her alive through her art. It's why, even decades later, even as one of the most successful artists in history, Madonna would sometimes wake up crying from dreams of her mother. And it's why, standing backstage at the Super Bowl on that February evening, Madonna felt an unusual heaviness she couldn't shake. Her assistant, Jennifer, noticed immediately. "You seem distracted," Jennifer said gently. "You never get distracted before a show." Madonna was adjusting her gold headpiece in the mirror, her hands moving mechanically. "It's the date," she said quietly. "My mom." It's been 49 years today since she passed. She paused, staring at her own reflection. "Some days it feels like it was yesterday. Some days I can barely remember her face." Jennifer touched Madonna's shoulder. "She'd be so proud of you tonight. You know that, right? The whole world is watching Madonna forced to smile. The whole world." No pressure, she took a deep breath, shaking off the emotion. "Let's do this." At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the stadium lights dimmed. Over 68,000 people in the stadium erupted in cheers. Madonna emerged in a gold cape, carried on a throne by Roman gladiators, as LMFAO's party rock anthem blended into her classic Vogue. The performance was spectacular, exactly as rehearsed. But then came the transition into Like a Virgin. The stage was set. The lighting shifted to a softer blue. Madonna's dancers formed a corridor around her as she began to sing one of her most iconic songs. The camera angles were perfect. The choreography was flawless. Everything was going exactly according to plan. And then, Madonna saw her. Section 127, 17 rose up from the field. A woman sitting completely still while everyone around her was dancing and cheering. She was wearing a blue dress, simple and elegant, exactly like the one Madonna's mother wore in her favorite photograph from 1963. The woman had dark hair styled in soft waves, high cheekbones, kind eyes, and she was staring directly at Madonna with an expression that was somehow both sad and proud. Madonna's voice caught. For just a fraction of a second, she missed a word in the lyrics. Her hand instinctively went to her chest, pressing against her heart. Her eyes locked onto the woman in section 127. Time seemed to slow down. The backup dancers continued moving around her, unaware that anything was wrong. The music kept playing, the cameras kept rolling. But inside, Madonna was spiraling. That face, she knew that face. She had memorized every detail of that face from old photographs, from fading memories, from dreams that felt more real than reality. Her choreography called for her to turn left and face the opposite side of the stadium. But Madonna couldn't look away. She stayed frozen, staring at the woman in blue, her mind racing through impossible explanations. A relative she'd never met? An incredible coincidence? A psychological break happening in real time in front of 115 million people? The woman didn't move, didn't cheer, didn't smile. She just watched Madonna with those familiar eyes, her expression filled with something that looked like love and sadness mixed together. 3 seconds had passed. In a performance this tightly choreographed, 3 seconds was an eternity. Madonna's stage manager was screaming in her earpiece, "Madonna, positions, you're missing your mark," but she couldn't hear him. All she could hear was her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then, as suddenly as the moment began, Madonna made a choice. She blinked hard, tearing her eyes away from section 127 and threw herself back into the choreography with fierce determination. Her body moved on autopilot, muscle memory taking over as her mind struggled to process what she'd just seen. The performance continued. She transitioned into music with Red Foo and Sky Blue. Then came the surprise appearance of LMFAO, then Nicki Minaj and MIA for Give Me All Your Louvin'. The show was massive, energetic, powerful. Madonna hit every mark, nailed every transition. Professionally, she was flawless. But whenever there was a moment where she faced that section of the stadium, Madonna's eyes would dart back to section 127. The woman was still there, still motionless, still watching. For the finale, Madonna performed Like a Prayer, and the entire stadium floor lit up with performers holding glowing candles. It was meant to be a moment of spiritual transcendence, a perfect ending to the show. As Madonna sang the final chorus, she looked one more time toward section 127. The woman in blue raised her hand slowly and placed it over her heart, mirroring the gesture Madonna had made earlier. Then she smiled, a soft, heartbreaking smile that Madonna recognized from somewhere deep in her childhood memories. And then the lights shifted for the final effect, and when they stabilized again 3 seconds later, the seat was empty. The woman was gone. The performance ended to thunderous applause. Madonna took her bow, blew kisses to the crowd, and walked off stage with her performers. The moment she was out of camera view, her knees buckled. 2 assistants caught her, holding her up as tears streamed down her face. "Get me security for section 127, she gasped between sobs. "Right now." "I need to find someone." Her manager, Guy Ossery, rushed over. "What's wrong?" "What happened?" "My mother," Madonna whispered, her voice breaking. "I saw my mother in the crowd." Guy's face showed immediate concern. This wasn't good. Not here, not now, not with the whole world watching. "Madonna, honey, listen to me." "You're exhausted. The pressure, the anniversary, it's—" "I know what I saw," Madonna interrupted, her voice stronger now. "Section 127, 17 rows up, blue dress, she was there. I saw her clear as day. Security was dispatched immediately. Within minutes, they returned with information. Section 127, row 17, seat 8, had been purchased by a woman named Margaret Louise Fortin. She was 73 years old, visiting from Bay City, Michigan. Madonna's blood went cold. Bay City, her hometown, the town where her mother was buried. "Find her," Madonna demanded. "I need to talk to her." But Margaret Fortin had left immediately after the performance ended. Security checked the exits, checked the parking lots, reviewed camera footage. The woman had somehow vanished into the crowd of 68,000 people. Madonna spent the next 3 days trying to track down Margaret Fortin. Phone calls to Bay City, searches through public records. Finally, she found a phone number and called it herself, her hands shaking as she dialed. An elderly woman answered. "Hello? Is this Margaret Fortin?" Madonna asked, her voice tight with emotion. "Yes, this is Margaret." "Who's calling?" This is Madonna, Madonna Ciccone. I performed at the Super Bowl on Sunday, and I was told you were there, in section 127. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, softly, "Yes, dear. I was there. Did you—" Madonna struggled to find the words. "Did you know my mother? You're from Bay City. You have the same first name. You were wearing a blue dress, just like hers." Margaret's voice became gentle, almost motherly. "I did know your mother, sweetheart. Madonna and I were best friends in high school. We lost touch after she got married and moved, but I never forgot her. When she got sick, I visited her in the hospital a few times." Madonna was crying now. She never mentioned you. I don't remember you. You were very young, Margaret said kindly, but your mother talked about you constantly. You were her world. Even when she was dying, all she could talk about was her little girl, how talented you were, how special. Why did you come to the show? Madonna asked. Why were you wearing that dress? Margaret was quiet for a moment. This is going to sound strange, but I had a dream about your mother 3 nights before the Super Bowl. In the dream, she asked me to go, to wear blue, her favorite color, to sit in the stadium and watch you so she could see you through my eyes. She laughed softly, embarrassed. I know how that sounds. But I'm an old woman, and when your deceased best friend visits you in a dream, you listen. Madonna couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. You were magnificent, Margaret continued. Your mother would have been so incredibly proud. I know I'm just a stranger to you, but sitting there, watching you command that stage, watching the whole world celebrate you, I felt like I was giving your mother a gift, the chance to see what her little girl became. Thank you, Madonna whispered. Thank you for being there. There's one more thing, Margaret said. When your mother was dying, she made me promise something. She made me promise that if I ever had the chance, I would tell you that she loved you more than anything in this world, that her only regret was not being there to watch you grow up, that she knew you would do extraordinary things. Madonna was sobbing now, unable to form words. She saw you, sweetheart, Margaret said softly. Through me, through whatever mysterious way these things work, she saw you shine, and she was so, so proud. They talked for another hour. Margaret shared memories of Madonna's mother, stories that no one else alive could tell, stories of her laugh, her dreams, her kindness, stories that filled in gaps Madonna didn't even know existed. When they finally said goodbye, Madonna sat in her hotel room and looked at the photograph she always carried with her, the one of her mother in the blue dress from 1963, the same dress Margaret had worn, the same smile Margaret had given her from section 127. Some people would call it coincidence, some would call it grief-induced hallucination, some would call it faith. Madonna chose to call it grace, a gift from somewhere beyond understanding, a moment when the barrier between past and present, between life and death, became thin enough for love to pass through. In interviews afterward, Madonna rarely spoke about what happened during those 3 seconds of the Super Bowl performance. But when asked about her mother, her answer was always the same. She's never really gone. The people we love stay with us in ways we can't always explain. Sometimes we feel them. Sometimes, if we're very lucky, we see them. And sometimes they find ways to tell us they're proud. February 5th is no longer just the anniversary of loss for Madonna. It's also the anniversary of a gift, a mystery, a moment of impossible grace witnessed by 115 million people who had no idea what they were seeing. It's the day Madonna learned that grief and love are not opposites. They're the same thing, stretched across time, refusing to let go. And somewhere in Bay City, Michigan, an elderly woman keeps that blue dress in her closet, pressed and perfect, waiting for the next time an old friend whispers in a dream,